It happened during the summer before my senior year of high school. I was 17 at the time, living in a quiet neighborhood where every house looked nearly identical. White siding, trimmed lawns, driveways that all led to the same style of two-car garage. From the outside, everything about our street looked safe. Too safe, almost. My parents had gone away for the weekend to visit my grandmother. I begged them to let me stay behind, claiming I had a ton of homework and summer projects. In truth, I just wanted the house to myself. 17 is that age where a little taste of independence feels like freedom. The first night alone was quiet. Too quiet. I watched TV, microwaved some leftover pizza, scrolled endlessly on my phone. I remember pacing the living room, pretending I wasn't nervous, pretending every creak of the floorboards wasn't making my skin prickle. By midnight, exhaustion took over, and I convinced myself that nothing bad ever happens in suburbs like ours. I was wrong. The second night started out the same. Warm air drifted in through half-open windows. The faint hum of cicadas rose and fell outside, the soundtrack of summer. At around 10:30, I decided to swim in our backyard pool. The night air was heavy and warm, and the water looked like a sheet of glass under the porch light. Swimming always relaxed me, helped me shake off nerves. I slipped into the pool, the water wrapping around me like a blanket of cool silk. For a while, I floated on my back, staring at the stars. The neighborhood was still. No barking dogs, no cars passing, just silence. That's when I saw it. Through the sliding glass door, which led into the living room, I noticed movement. At first, I thought it was just my reflection, the trick of water and light. But then the shape shifted. It was darker than the room itself, tall, standing still in the shadows of my living room. I blinked hard. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks. But no, the figure didn't vanish. It lingered, unmoving, as if it were watching me. My heart hammered in my chest. I froze in the pool, half submerged, barely daring to breathe. The logical part of my brain screamed that I was imagining things, that no one could be in my house, that I had locked the doors. But the longer I stared, the more certain I became. Someone was in there. Slowly, the figure moved. Not toward the door, not toward the window, just deeper into the living room, where the shadows swallowed him whole. The porch light flickered, and for an instant, I caught a glimpse of something reflective, maybe a watch, maybe glasses, and then nothing. The room went still again. I scrambled out of the pool, dripping water across the deck. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone. I called my neighbor first, Mr. Green, who lived 3 houses down. He didn't answer. Then I called my parents, whispering frantically into the receiver, begging them to come home. They told me to stay calm, to check the locks, to call the police if I was really that scared. But I couldn't move. My legs felt like they were made of stone. I stood outside, barefoot and soaked, clutching my phone like it was the only weapon I had. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I forced myself to go inside. The house was silent. I flicked on every light I could reach, the kitchen, the hall, the living room. Nothing looked disturbed. No broken glass, no signs of forced entry. And yet, the air felt wrong, heavy, like the house was holding its breath. I searched every room. Upstairs, downstairs, even the basement. Closets, under beds, behind the shower curtain. Nothing. By the time I collapsed onto the couch, I was trembling with exhaustion. Maybe it had been a dream. Maybe the reflection on the glass had messed with me. That's what I told myself as I finally crawled into bed. But then came the footsteps. It was 3 in the morning when I awoke to the sound of creaking. Slow, deliberate, coming from the hallway just outside my bedroom. At first, I thought it was the house settling. But no, the sound was too steady. Too intentional. I held my breath, straining to hear. The footsteps stopped directly outside my door. For a full minute, silence. Then, the faintest scrape, like fingers brushing against the wood. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Every nerve in my body screamed to run, but I couldn't. My muscles locked, as if fear itself had pinned me to the mattress. And then, nothing. the sound stopped. When I finally dared to open the door at sunrise, the hallway was empty. I didn't sleep the rest of that weekend. Every night I left all the lights on. I kept a kitchen knife on the nightstand. And every night I swore I heard something. Soft thuds, faint whispers, doors clicking shut. By the time my parents returned Sunday evening, I was pale, hollow-eyed, and shaking. I told them everything. They searched the house top to bottom, found nothing, no signs of forced entry, no footprints, no proof that anyone had been there at all. For a while I believed them. Maybe I had imagined it all. Maybe fear and loneliness had gotten the better of me. But then, a week later, my mom was cleaning the storage closet near the basement when she froze. Inside, behind boxes of old holiday decorations, she found something chilling. A blanket, an empty soda can, and a half-eaten protein bar. Someone had been living in our house. For how long? We'll never know. But one thing still haunts me. That night by the pool when I saw the shadow in the living room. I wasn't imagining it. Someone was really there, watching me, waiting. And the scariest part? We never found out who it was. It was last year during Hollybash weekend at Rowan. The air was electric. Food trucks lined the walkways, blasting music mingled with laughter, and neon lights flickered against the night sky. Students swarmed everywhere, riding carnival rides, taking pictures, living what felt like the perfect college memory. I stayed until late, drifting between groups of friends, sipping cheap soda from a paper cup, my face glowing under strings of carnival lights. It was nearly 2:30 in the morning when I finally decided to call it a night and head back to my dorm, Chestnut Hall. The campus, which had been buzzing with life just an hour earlier, now felt eerily deserted. The walk back was longer than I remembered. The air was cold enough to sting my face, and every sound seemed sharper. The crunch of gravel under my shoes, the distant hum of a generator, the occasional laugh echoing from some party still going on. Chestnut Hall loomed ahead, its tall brick frame mostly dark except for a few glowing windows. My footsteps echoed against the pavement, and I caught myself glancing over my shoulder more than once. It was irrational, I told myself. Rowan was a safe campus. Nothing bad ever happened here, but the knot in my stomach refused to loosen. When I finally reached the dorm entrance, I swiped my ID card and slipped inside. The heavy door clicked shut behind me with a metallic echo. Inside, everything was too quiet. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The lobby smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals. I started toward the elevator but hesitated. I hated elevators when I was alone, so I took the stairs instead. The stairwell was dim, one bulb flickering weakly as if it were about to die. My footsteps bounced off the concrete walls, unnervingly loud in the silence. That's when I heard it. A door above me creaked open. I froze mid-step, staring up the stairwell. At first, nothing moved. Then, a shape leaned over the railing 2 floors above me. Someone wearing a mask. Not a fun, colorful mask like you'd see at the festival. No. This one was pale, blank, almost featureless. The figure tilted their head, slowly, deliberately, watching me from above. My heart lurched. I stumbled back a step, gripping the railing so hard my knuckles turned white. And then I realized there wasn't just one. From the corner of my eye, I saw another masked figure step out on the landing below. Same mask, same stillness. I was trapped. Panic clawed up my throat. My mind raced through options: scream, run, fight. But my body refused to move. The figure above began descending the stairs, each step echoing like a drumbeat. The one below started climbing. They were closing in. I bolted. Adrenaline surged through me, overriding fear. I shoved open the nearest hallway door and sprinted down the corridor. My sneakers squeaked against the linoleum. Doors lined the hall, each one shut, each one belonging to students fast asleep. I pounded on the door. "Help! Please!" But no one answered. Behind me, footsteps pounded closer. I darted around a corner, praying they'd lose me. But as I turned, I froze. Another masked figure stood at the end of the hall, still, silent, waiting. Their head tilted the same way as the first one, as though they all shared one mind. I felt the walls closing in. My lungs burned, my legs trembled. Desperation pushed me into the stairwell again. I took the stairs 2 at a time, heart thundering in my chest. When I burst onto the 3rd floor, the hall was eerily empty. I sprinted toward my room, fumbling with my keys. My hands shook so violently I dropped them twice. Behind me, soft footsteps padded closer. Not running, not rushing, just walking, like they knew I couldn't escape. Finally, the key turned. I shoved my door open, slammed it shut, and locked it. Silence. I pressed my back against the door, gasping for breath, straining to hear. For a moment, all was quiet. Then, a knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on my door. I clamped a hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. My whole body shook. The knocks came again. Louder this time. Then silence. I don't know how long I stayed there, frozen. Minutes? Hours? Eventually, exhaustion dragged me onto the bed. I pulled the blanket over my head like I was a terrified child again, praying morning would come. When sunlight finally crept through the blinds, I thought maybe it had all been a nightmare. But then I noticed something on my desk. My notebook, which I had left shut, was open. A single sentence scrawled across the page in handwriting that wasn't mine. We could have come in. That's when I realized the scariest part. The masked strangers hadn't just been in the dorm hallways. They had been inside my room, watching, and they wanted me to know. It was supposed to be just another harmless Saturday night. Amanda, my best friend since middle school, had invited a handful of us over while her parents were away. Nothing crazy, no wild parties, just a few close friends, snacks, music, maybe a movie before we all crashed on the couches. Her house was familiar, warm, the kind of place where I'd spent countless afternoons after school, eating cereal straight out of the box, laughing about teachers, or planning our futures like we had it all figured out. That night it felt the same, safe, comfortable, ordinary. But looking back now, I swear there was something different in the air from the moment I stepped inside. A strange stillness underneath all our laughter, like the night itself was warning us. We were halfway through a dumb comedy movie when it happened. The lights flickered. Just for a second, the lamps dimmed, the TV cut out, and shadows stretched across the walls like long, reaching fingers. Then everything blinked back to normal. We all laughed nervously, brushing it off. Bad wiring, old circuits. No big deal. But I noticed Amanda glance toward the front door, her smile faltering for just a moment. "Expecting someone?" I teased. She shook her head quickly, too quickly. By midnight, the laughter had faded into that quiet comfort of tired friends sprawled across couches, half asleep, scrolling on our phones. That's when we heard it. 3 sharp knocks at the door. Knock, knock, knock. The sound cut through the silence like a blade. We all froze. Amanda sat up slowly, frowning. "Did you invite anyone else?" Heads shook. No one had. The knocks came again, louder this time. Amanda crept toward the door, her socks whispering against the hardwood. She leaned into the peephole. Her whole body stiffened. There's a man out there," she whispered. We crowded around her, taking turns at the peephole. He was tall, lean, dressed in dark clothes with a hood pulled over his head, his face hidden in shadow. But what chilled me wasn't just the way he stood there. It was the way he didn't move. He was perfectly still, waiting. Amanda's voice cracked as she called out, "Who is it?" Silence. No answer. Then, without warning, bang, bang, bang! The knocking started again, harder, rattling the door in its frame. We jumped back, panic spreading through the room like fire. One of the guys hissed, "Call the cops!" But Amanda hesitated. "What if it's nothing? I don't want to overreact." Before anyone could respond, the sound of wood splintering echoed from the back of the house. The back door had been forced open. We screamed, because suddenly the man wasn't outside anymore. He was inside. The figure moved quickly, footsteps heavy against the kitchen tile. He stepped into the glow of the living room light. And when we saw his face, Amanda went pale. "Uncle Ray?" she whispered. Her voice was barely audible. But this wasn't the Uncle Ray she knew. His eyes were wild, bloodshot, darting around the room. His face looked older, harder, etched with lines of anger. And in his hand, he carried a gun. "Don't move," he said, his voice calm, terrifyingly calm. We froze. Ray's gaze swept over us, scanning the jewelry on the coffee table, the phones in our hands, even the sneakers on our feet. "This'll be quick," he muttered. "Nobody gets hurt if you cooperate." He ordered us to empty our pockets, to pile our valuables on the floor. Wallets, phones, watches. I felt my throat close as I slid off the bracelet my mom had given me for my birthday. The room was thick with silence, broken only by the clatter of items hitting the floor. Amanda's lip trembled. "Uncle Ray, why are you doing this?" His jaw tightened. "Don't call me that." For the first time, his voice cracked, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Shame? Anger? Desperation? I couldn't tell. But whatever family connection Amanda thought she had, it was gone. This man wasn't her uncle anymore. Not tonight. We stood there trembling as he shoved the valuables into a backpack. Every second felt like an eternity. Finally, he glanced at the door, then back at us. For one horrifying moment, I thought he might pull the trigger just to tie up loose ends. But instead he hissed, "Stay down. Don't follow me." Then he slipped into the night, leaving the door wide open behind him. For minutes, none of us moved. The house was silent except for Amanda's soft sobs. When we finally called the police, it was already too late. He was gone. They searched the neighborhood, questioned neighbors, took statements, but they never found him. Weeks later, Amanda told me she had uncovered something worse. Her parents admitted they hadn't seen Ray in years. He'd fallen into bad crowds, gambling, maybe drugs. He'd burned every bridge, stolen from family before disappearing completely. But somehow he still knew where Amanda lived. Still knew when her parents would be away. Still knew enough to walk straight into her home like it belonged to him. That night left scars none of us could see. For months, Amanda couldn't sleep without checking every lock twice. She kept a baseball bat under her bed. Every creak of the house made her jump. As for me, I still remember the look in his eyes. Cold, calculating, and yet almost pleading. Like some part of him was begging us to see the man he used to be. But the truth is, that man was gone. What stood in Amanda's living room that night wasn't family. It wasn't an uncle. It was a stranger with a gun. And the worst part? He knew us. He knew exactly who we were. And we'll never know if he's coming back.